Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully, everyone is doing well on this beautiful Sabbath day. I want to start off saying peace and blessings to all of you. Let me know if you all can hear me in the chat before we get the show started. And yeah, so peace and blessings to once again all of you here. I get a little bit rusty when I don't join, do these lives like I used to. But it looks like you all can hear me. So hopefully everyone in the chat is doing great. Um, so today's video, we're going to be here for maybe about an hour or so. But I really wanted to cover some topics that have been on my heart for quite a while now, right? So for those of us who see everything that's going on in this world, we understand that Bible prophecy is unfolding. We also understand that the world is under judgment. And there is a great separation between, I guess, what we can say, the wheat and the tares, or those of us who choose to side with God versus those of us who choose to side, those who decide to choose to side with evil. And so, because of this, a lot of us in the faith who choose to walk the narrow path, there is a great amount of spiritual warfare that we go through. And, some of us have eyes to see it while others don't. And so I do believe, since we are living in the latter days, it's important for those of us who have eyes to see to express our findings with those who cannot see yet, right? So I do believe that if you are in the truth, the Holy Spirit will guide you and will expose this global system to you or individuals in your life that don't mean you well. And so, yes. And so when it comes to dealing with spiritual warfare or dealing with the topics of, I guess we can say, the fallen state of mankind or narcissistic personality disorder, demonic entities, a lot of Christians or a lot of believers, Bible believers, they stray away from this information because it is scary, right? Um, However, the spiritual realm highly influences the physical realm. And the reason why spiritual warfare isn't discussed as heavily or it's exaggerated is because this is a secret that keeps the system alive. And so if we start exposing this, then we will see flaws everywhere that we go. And so, however, because we're at war with these dark forces, it's very important to address this issue because a lot of us can go through this type of warfare unknowingly, and it can lead to that individual's demise, right? Especially, you know, what's interesting is when you're in this type of warfare, because it is supernatural, because it is spiritual, when you start to seek guidance, you may be seeking guidance from the enemy. And so it's important as believers to equip ourselves with this knowledge, to understand the system that we live in so that we're not deceived by it. And this is why a lot of us go through more warfare, right? So I did a post earlier today on the community tab, just kind of talking about, what had happened to me with school. And we'll go ahead and get into that. But really, this is just going to be an example that I want to give to talk about something bigger, which is going to be the spiritual realm, right? And so in this video, we're going to talk about various topics ranging from spiritual warfare, spiritual discernment. We're also going to cover the topic of narcissism and the matrix system. We're going to talk about seducing spirits, wandering spirits, familiar spirits, right? All in all, these are demonic spirits. We're going to talk about the lowercase gods versus the almighty most high, right? We're going to talk about how these lowercase gods influence humanity in every religion, right? So we have Babylonian gods, Egyptian gods, we have marine gods, right? And a lot of people don't understand, once again, that these entities influence this realm highly. And this is why we see great empires rise and fall. So we had the Greco Empire, we had the Roman Empire, we have the US Empire, right? And once again, these empires are rising to power because they're pledging their allegiance to the lowercase gods. And this is where we talk about the fallen angels, the Nephilim, all that good stuff, right? And let's see, and then we'll go ahead and talk about a plethora of other topics, right? So pretty much, At the start of my, I guess you can say, the start of this summer semester, I ran into a teacher who I believe to be a narcissist, and I think she was aware that I knew that she was one, and she would not make an assignment available to me. And so I asked her to make an assignment available to me. Of course, she did what many narcs do, which is gaslight. And so she purposely misunderstood my question, because narcissists, they're not interested in giving you any solutions. They're not interested in giving you any answers. They want to battle with you, right? So as Rachel says, it's a battlefield. They want you to engage with them. They want you to be angry. They want you to be uh, envious of them, jealous of them. They want you to fight with them, really. And so she ended up asking me to leave the course, which I did, because she would have just sabotaged me down the road. Now, I have another teacher who I thought I was pretty cool with. And so school is over tomorrow. And so pretty much the last week of the course, she threw this project at us, which was not on the syllabus, and she's playing the same game. And so the project is really advanced compared to the stuff that we've learned. And mind you, this is a project that the book is offered. So this is not her project, right? And of course, because I am asking for a solution, with her assistance to help me with this project, she is not providing that solution. And what's interesting is when it comes to dealing with these entities, there is patterns, right? So pattern recognition is very important when it comes to the tactics of the enemy, right? And what happens is a lot of people who are spiritually compromised or spiritually oppressed, when they communicate with you, a lot of them will communicate with you late at night. So 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is done for a variety of reasons. Mainly, I do believe that the entity does hop into them at this reason. And this is just at this time, I do believe it's a theory of mine. However, when you do communicate with somebody that late at time, the person that you're communicating with is most likely not going to receive the message, right? And because it is the weekend, it looks like I might not be hearing from her until the class is over, right? So these are the type of games that those of us have to deal with, being a child of God in this realm. And for those of you who are going through the same type of abuse, it's important to know that you are not alone, and this is what it is when we choose to walk that narrow path, right? This is what it is. There's always going to be traps. There's always going to be setups. There's gaslighting. Um, all these different tactics of the enemy trying to knock you off of your post. So every time I run into something in my real life, I like to bring it onto the channel so that you guys can apply these different experiences to your life, so that you know how to prepare yourself and fight against this spiritual warfare. So I'll keep you guys updated with that. But yes, it just seems like, you know, as we keep approaching, deeper into the latter days, this is the type of stuff that many believers are going to run into. And the enemy is always looking to seduce. The enemy is always looking to deceive. The enemy is always looking to pit believers against each other. And because the deception is so deep, a lot of us will go into these different religious organizations and not realize that they're highly influenced by the spiritual realm or the demonic realm, right? So let's go ahead and look at Ephesians chapter 6, verses 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And this it couldn't be further from the truth, right? So this is what those of us in the faith go through, right? And once again, as we learn more and more about the tactics of the enemy, the tactics that the enemy sends to us, they get more complicated, more complex. And so this is why we always have to be in our Bibles. And this is why we constantly have to educate ourselves on this type of warfare, because if not, we're going to constantly get played by these entities, right? So let's see who's in the chat before we go ahead and get the show started. And I've kind of been off of these YouTube streets for a while for a number of reasons, right? So the spiritual warfare, I've been busy trying to get this thing that we call life together. Um, and honestly, with everything that's going on in the world, I don't really want to get on the channel and be a Debbie Downer. I don't want to get on the channel and constantly discuss the things that we can get from news articles or from the world, right? So we know that this world is in a fallen state. We know that this world rejects God. And so, I just kind of find it, at least in my case, I don't really feel like it's my calling to constantly expose the headlines or the various agendas which we see happening, right? And even going and looking at that, right? A lot of the stuff that we see in this world, the this new system that is emerging, it seems like it's emerging very seamlessly. And the reason why is because it's spiritual powers that are bringing this system to fruition, right? So it talks, we have this theory of the phoenix rising from the ashes, right? So this old empire is going to fall, and this is going to give rise to this technological digital empire, which goal is to enslave humanity, right? So if they can't get to the soul, they want to at least be able to control your body. And so for those of us who are here at this time, we were here at a particular at this particular season for a reason. And so for those of us who do have voices, we have to voice what we see, all the things that we pick up on, because we are one body. So some of us are gifted in areas of spiritual discernment, when others are gifted at exposing the agenda. Others are gifted at helping humanity heal. Maybe some have musical talents, right? Maybe some are really great at breaking down the scriptures. And so this is why we need to rise and stand in our power, because we do have authority over these demons. And honestly, there are so many people out there who are looking for the truth, right? And because the deception is so large, there is a lot of false doctrine being taught in these churches, being taught in these fake religions, man centered religions, right? And once again, this is why we have to do our part, right? So for those of us who decide to share the gospel, for those of us who take it upon ourselves to read the Bible ourselves, right? We have the knowledge. If we can type and read in this chat, then we can also read and learn from the Bible. And what's very interesting is, I never thought I would say this, you all, but I am really starting to fall in love with the Old Testament, right? The Bible is just a beautiful capture of what we call life, right? It has everything in it. It has the supernatural in it. It has the beginning of creation in it. It has the story of the great flood and the Nephilim. It talks about principalities, right? As well as laws, judgment, the various tribes of Israel, which are going to be leaders in the latter days, right? And so once again, it's very important that we get into this word, because there are so many manipulators when it comes to teaching the Bible. And if we don't know the Bible, then we can be deceived by them. And this is where a lot of us will listen to false prophets who are led by seducing spirits. So let's go ahead and see who is in the chat, and we'll go ahead and get the show started. Let's see here. So we have Rachel in the chat. How are you? Deb Woods is in the chat. Just Me Heidi is in the chat. Mary Wells is in the chat. We have Nancy in the chat. Nicole is in the chat. I saw Hulk in here earlier. Where is he? I'm scrolling down. All right. And we have Miss Styles in the chat. Let's see here. Okay. And, for those of you who are listening, shout out to all of you. Shout out to all of you. Yes, doom and gloom can be an addiction, right? So, what's very interesting about, I guess you can say, the psychology of mankind, for those of us who, grew up, everybody in this world is being abused, right? It's our abuse is what feeds the system, right? And so, we're traumatized when we turn on the television. We're traumatized when we get in these dysfunctional relationships, our family systems, our workplace dynamics, or, education dynamics, as I mentioned earlier. And what happens is, a lot of victims of this type of abuse choose to stay there, especially if they aren't aligned with the Most High, right? Especially if they reject the Most High. And so, with channels such as this one, what I've noticed is there's a lot of people who are stuck in the abuse, who are stuck in this victim mentality. And this is not how God designed us, right? And so we choose to be addicted to this. It's really garbage. It's really nonsense. It's like we're constantly turning on the TV. We're constantly looking at all the negative things that is going on in the world. And this is all we're talking about. But when we talk about these things, we're not talking about the Bible, right? We're not talking about spiritual warfare. We're not talking about these different principalities, right? We're not talking about healing and empowering ourselves and stepping into our authority. And this is all done by design, right? And so once again, getting back to the topic, at least I guess I can say is my calling, spiritual discernment. It's very important to educate like-minded people of what's going on, because the devil is disguised in many various people, various types, various settings, various personality. There are so many within the church, right? And the reason why I bring up the church is because a lot of people new in the faith trust the church, right? And so we have to do, if we're going to do any type of exposing, we have to expose all sectors of society, right? So we can have seducing spirits that will use sexuality to pull you in. We'll have familiar spirits who have known who you were since birth and can mirror yourself back at you so that you fall in love with it and get you to fornicate or commit sin with it, right? We have wandering spirits that roam the earth. Dawson was talking about this earlier, that roam the earth, right? Seeking who they can devour, seeking who they can destroy. And then we have these different demonic Babylonian, Egyptian systems, right? These different global systems which pays homage to these spirits, right? To these Nephilim spirits, to these fallen angelic type of spirits. And these spirits grants these nations power. And this is where we see rituals such as wars, rumors of wars, all this devastation, right? With this whole campaign of what we saw with 2020, right? It was a ritual that's feeding a demonic force, right? And once again, we can't be fearful of this for those of us who are believers in Christ, and we have to understand this stuff because the world, once again, is highly influenced by these forces, but we do have the power to overcome. So let's see here. All right. So I'm just looking at some of my notes. But yeah, how are all of you doing? How is everyone's Sabbath going? Once again, there is so much going on in the world right now, right? So we have a lot of people who have participated in their ritual, the 2020 ritual, and a lot of people are losing their lives because of it, right? There is so much trauma going on in the world. And in a way, what's beautiful about being in this dark period is a lot of us are starting to turn back to the Bible, right? Because the Most High is all we can really depend on these days, right? And so it's very important to get into our word to, educate ourselves and, go to God, go to the Most High for advice, because once again, there is warfare coming our way, right? And we see it each and every day, each and every day. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. Yes. So somebody brought up Alex Jones. And once again, when it comes to waking up to this world system, right, there is a process, right? So a lot of us will graduate from one level to the next, right? And so a lot of people, when they first start waking up, is they get caught up in the Alex Jones of the world. And what he does is he does a really great job at traumatizing his viewers by getting them to be fearful, right? And so people will watch his stuff, and he'll also put bits and pieces of truth in his in his what can we call it, in his shows, right, to make people fearful, to get people on edge. And because a lot of people are addicted to fear, they come back and they come back and they come back. And what's interesting is the enemy will take them off of platforms such as YouTube and put them on other platforms, and then we'll think that they're actually standing for something, but really they are communicating with wandering spirits, dark spirits, right? And so once again, as believers, it's important to tap into our spiritual discernment so that we're not deceived by the enemy, right? So I see a lot of believers are, a lot of believers are interested in these various rabbit holes, right? So on these various platforms, I see a lot of the Mandela effect, or CERN, or the Georgia Guidestones, or the 666 symbolism, the Illuminati, Freemasonry, the Eastern stars, the 33 rituals that we see. And really, all of this is heavily inspired by the demonic realm. And so we try to make physical sense of what's happening in the spiritual realm. This is why the numbers always match up. This is why the headlines always match up, because there's principalities controlling this system. And as this mass awakening occurs of God's children, this is what's going to cause this demonic empire to crumble. And so, what the enemy is trying to do, he's trying to do everything to maintain control, right? And this is why we have the inoculation campaign. This is why we have this quote unquote climate change, right? I don't know about you all, but it has been burning up in LA for the past, I don't know, like the past month. That's another reason why I haven't really been on this platform, but we're seeing all this stuff come to fruition because the demonic realm is trying to maintain control, right? And it's because God's children are waking up and stepping into their authority, right? And once again, Bible prophecy is occurring each and every day, but this is nothing to be fearful of. And even though judgment is upon the nation or upon the globe, this is something that we can rejoice in because we know that our Savior is returning. Our Messiah is coming back, right? And once again, there is a lot of doctrine of devils, right? So even within the biblical faith, we see a lot of different doctrines, right? And it can be confusing for new believers, right? But once again, we have to step into our power, and we have to read the word for ourselves, right? And then compare that with what is being taught to us. And then also look at the spirit of the person, look at the fruit of the person, right? Because there's so many different things that is coming into this, I guess we can call it man-centered form of Christianity, which is going to deceive many, right? You know, walking in the narrow path, once again, it's not for the faint of heart. It's very difficult. Spiritual warfare is very, 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 very difficult. Even me doing a live stream like this, I know there's something down the road waiting for me, right? So, I mean, like when it comes to dealing with these principalities, right? But we cannot be silent at this time because there are people who are looking for the answers. There's people who are curious about the truth. And so for those of us going through this refinement process, it's important for us to speak, right? Even if it's on these virtual platforms. And it's important for us to try to live the word, right? And try to produce good fruit, right? Because there is so much hypocrisy going on in the world today. And I believe with all this mass hypnosis or psychosis, excuse me, it could be both actually. Um, there I feel like it's a part of judgment. I feel like the Most High has sent, society at large mass confusion, and this is why people are choosing to side with things that can cost them their lives, cost them their souls. This is why everyone complains about being mistreated, but they don't want solutions, right? So even going back to the topic of narcissism, we know that there's nothing that we can do to ever please these individuals. We're never good enough. We're constantly walking on eggshells. And when we look at society at large, it is the same. And once again, because this system is highly demonic and it's parasitic, it needs someone to feed off of. And so what it chooses to do is it feeds off of those of us with the life force who are God's chosen, right? And if you understand this, once again, it's better to understand it, and it's better to learn about this stuff so that we can better combat against it. So let's see what y'all are saying in the chats. Pizza Log is in the house. How are you? Hopefully all is well. Let's see here. Just looking, I'm looking. All right. So yes, and see what's interesting about these various rabbit holes is a lot of people will say, okay, well, looking at this brought me closer to the faith, and and I do believe that that's true. There's a lot of us who saw that darkness in this world was very real, but the only thing is, like what we mentioned earlier, is this addictive quality that these various rabbit holes has. And so what's interesting about the Mandela effect is people will say, don't read the Bible because the Mandela effect has altered the Bible. Isn't this exactly what the demonic realm would want? Is for us to go to the word of God and be skeptical of it and never to open it, right? So I'm guilty of this as well, right? So I've been in the faith for at least 20 years, at least. And I haven't read the Bible from front to back, which that I'm ashamed of myself for that, right? But I remember when I first found out about the Mandela effect, I thought to myself, oh man, the younger generation isn't going to be able to read the word of God. But I never, read it completely in its entirety. And so once again, you have to realize that these various seducing spirits, right? These religious spirits, these demonic spirits are throwing these different agendas at us to deceive us, right? So we can talk about what happened with the Hoover Dam, right? We could say that that was in the Illuminati cards, right? And what these demons do is they will give you bits and pieces of truth. A lot of us were focused on La Palma because we saw that on a video game, or we saw that, I think that was also on the Illuminati cards, right? But once again, we're heeding to seducing spirits and we're taking our attention off of the Most High, right? So I say, when it comes to learning this stuff, it does bring a lot of people into the truth, but the enemy always has a trap ready for you, right? And so we'll have people who will go from that various rabbit holes to like the New Age movement or to astrology. And once again, we're not going to the source, which is the Bible, right? And so that's my only issue with it. It's like we can't stay there, right? And I've been a part of a lot of these different groups, and this is all that certain individuals talk about. They don't want to talk about scripture. It gets very quiet when we bring the Bible up, but we can talk about these various rabbit holes all day, or the 666, one eye symbolism, right? These people are possessed by demons. This is why the symbolism is the same. And this is why when we look through history, the symbolism has always been the same, right? And so once again, we're looking at the demonic realm and we're ignoring, the the path of righteousness, right? So let's see what we got. All right, just checking out some of these comments, you all. But yes, what's interesting too is as I'm strengthening my walk with the Most High. You know, I really look forward to days such as the Sabbath. I really do look forward to reading the Word of God. And even though I knew that there was power in the Bible, this is the first time that I can say that I actually enjoy it. Right. And what's interesting is a lot of us who grew up in the church, I'm just using the church because it's my experience, is we always strayed away from the Old Testament. But once you get through I would say the first four books, it really starts to get interesting. And what's interesting also about it's kind of funny to me is the first half of these books will be very technical and very hard to get through. But then when you get to the second half, it gets amazing, right? And what's interesting too is when you look at the Bible and you look at these various ancient writings of other, I guess you can say, religious systems, you'll see the same story or a similar to story is being told, right? So a lot of people talk about the flood, right? Which we know is the days of Noah, right? There's a story of a character named Samson. I forget which book. I think he might be in the book of Joshua, but he had pretty much supernatural abilities by God. And that book reminds me of the book of Gilgamesh, right? And so we see the Most High constantly in communication with the Israelites, telling them not to worship these other gods like all the other nations on the planet were doing. And once again, this shows us that these deities, that these beings were real, right? And humanity was telling us a story, right? And this is where we see a lot in the writings and we see a lot in the symbolism. And so this stuff isn't mythology. This stuff was very real. And I think a lot of us of the future, we really underestimate the mindset of humans in the past, right? So there was a story to be told, and a lot of it was carved in stone because of the things like the Great Flood, right? So I think it's very important not to just dismiss this stuff because these entities are very real. They're ancient. And right, for a lot of us who've dealt with narcissists, they know how to play us very well. They play us like a fiddle because they've studied mankind since the beginning, right? And when the Most High wiped out these entities, such as the Nephilim, they were right back. And we can see this in the book of Numbers, right? So they're still here. They're still here, and we know there's going to be an increase in these type of entities in the latter days, right? So as in the days of Noah, right? So that's very important to consider. Let's see here. All right. But yes, so as I stated earlier, there's a great awakening happening, right? So we have God's chosen people waking up, and then we have people who are in alignment with God's chosen people. And so, once again, this awakening is what's going to help usher in Bible prophecy and judgment, right? And once again, I don't feel that judgment is something to be fearful of, but it is something that is occurring. And this is why we see people under this state of hypnosis or confusion. It almost seems as if they're hexed and they're defaulted into trusting in evil, right? And this is even with this whole inoculation campaign going on, they keep getting more and more and more. And we're starting to see all the lies unfold. And people who've received these things are getting sick, and they get more and they continue to get sick. And so, once again, it's this, I guess we can call it almost for the world, it's like the great equalizer, and this great let's see, what's the word? I almost want to say sifting out, right? And for those who don't have the love of the truth in their heart, they are being given over to the lie, and it is costing them their lives, right? And so, if those of us who see this stuff from a biblical point of view, if we choose to stay silent, there's people who are curious about the faith who will never get to see our point of view, right? So a lot of atheists, right, they don't believe that, there's those of us in the faith who know science or who is interested in science, and they think that we're very basic in the way that we view the world, but it's really the opposite, right? And so, yeah, it is crazy. But yes, so let me go ahead and look at some of these comments while we're on here. We won't be on here too long. I just wanted to kind of get this out since I haven't been on here in a while. And I know Days is going to be coming on a little bit later. And so I'll see you all there in the chat. But yes, and so sudden adult death syndrome. And here's the thing about that, right? This is what happens when you choose to side with evil, or this is what happens when you choose to ignore evil, right? So when we look at the foundation of this nation, we know that it has been based off of evil, right? We know that this nation was built off of the backs of God's chosen, and we chose to ignore that. We chose to ignore women who cried out to what was happening to their babies, right? So we had SIDS, right? This is nothing genetic. Science will gaslight you, or these people who manipulate science will gaslight you and tell you that something's wrong with your baby. It happens to be genetic, but it's their infiltration that has caused the harm on these children. We chose to ignore those women, and we made fun of those women. And I'm saying we as humanity, and we gaslit those women. We name called those women. We even created a community for them, the anti-V community. And now what's happening? This inoculation is taking out more people than all of them combined in the past. And this is what happens when we choose to ignore evil and, defend it. It just keeps growing. It keeps festering. And so this is why, um, this is why we see this chaos going on, and it's not going to stop because it's a part of the agenda. So, when we get to the topic of, or the thing of the mark of the beast, I do believe that it's going to be inserted into the body via injection, right? And so this is why, even though this thing is causing so many devastating harms to humanity, they keep going, right? And so, and this is going to be tied to the financial system. There's already patents out there for that, right? And so, for those of us in the faith, we have to be aware of this, and we have to be wide awake, because the enemy is dosing us with these skies, our water systems, just our psychology, our emotions. They're really doing so much to keep us in fear, to burn us out, right? This fifth gen, it makes us tired, right? So there's so much going on, right? And this is why all we can do is cling on to the Most High, right? And to, come to communities such as this one. I may not be on here all the time, but there's some channels that I'm on, right? And we have to find our communities, we have to find our tribe, and we have to get that nourishment because once again, this world does everything in its power to deplete us, right? So let's see here. All right. So yeah, KJ is also on today. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm just looking through the comment section to see what we got going on here. And once again, shout out to you all. Yes, and I feel like, it's kind of an impromptu stream today. As far as me hopping on here, because I figure since I'm not, working on my project, I could get on here and, have a conversation with you all, right? And for those of you who are going through this type of warfare, you understand that it is very spiritual because when you do decide to set boundaries and do decide to let go of the person, it's 10 more devils waiting for you, right? And for those of us who've had issues in the workplace, we go back into the educational field to avoid that. And then what happens? Uh, the enemy is waiting for us there, right? Or the enemy is trying to seduce us with a relationship, right? Or maybe one of our family members start glitching out, right? And once again, there's a great falling away occurring, and so this is why we see people in the fallen state of mankind glitching out. They don't know what they're doing. And to me, they're getting worse day by day. And I think, a great example of that is Joe Biden, right? He is just really losing it, right? And what's interesting is he reminds me a lot of my adoptive father, and it's what's interesting is when you're under these demonic contracts, a lot can go good for your life, but there's only so long that the body can maintain, this demonic force. And what happens is people who come of age, instead of reflecting on all the things that they've done in their life that goes against the Most High, they choose to disassociate. And so this is what we see going on with the President of the United States. So, and narcissism, it plays in because we saw two forms of it with this administration and the last administration, right? So you would have Trump as your more of your overt narcissist, whereas Biden is more of your covert narcissist. And then this ties into the spiritual realm because this is going to highlight the fall of the American empire, right? So we saw all the narcissism going on with Trump's empire, and we knew that the Republicans couldn't be trusted. And now we see the disassociation, and the lack of leadership with the Democratic Party, right? And so once again, this is going to feed into the destruction of the American system. And once again, as God's people are waking up, this is where we're starting to see the system collapse on itself. So we can never have two empires, of one of good and one of evil be at the top at the same time. So when the empire of good rises, the empire of evil starts to fall. And so, a lot of us go back to the Deuteronomy curse of 400 years. And so 400 years, we had this great, I guess, great in power or military might rise to power, which was the American system. And so now, just like all the other great systems in the past, the Babylonian systems, the Persian systems, the Roman systems, the Greco systems, all of them fell. And so now we're starting to see this great nation, Mystery Babylon, do the same, right? And so once again, all of it is very spiritual. It's very interesting how it works. Even before I created this channel, I never thought that I would be talking about this type of stuff. It was stuff that I've always thought of, but I never thought that I'll be talking about spiritual warfare, demons, narcissism. But once again, these entities are at war with the saints. And so we have to expose them for what they are, right? At all costs necessary. And once again, they're very simplistic. And once you understand the psychology of one, you pretty much got all of them, right? And, and I guess the goal was for us never to wake up so that they can sabotage us until the day that we die. And a lot of people have off themselves because of what these demonic entities have done to them, right? In our family systems. And then it, evolves into the work system, the global systems. And it seems a lot of us have been scapegoated our entire lives. But it's a blessing in disguise because we realize that we can only depend on the Most High, right? And there's no other way around it. And once again, when you start applying the principles of the Bible to your own life, you will see blessings, right? And you will have a peace of mind. And you can get through tough times such as this one, right? So I don't even think we've really seen anything yet. I think it's coming, but it's going to be in stages, right? So what I feel like these various powers are trying to do is break down society, and this takes a minute. It takes a while, right? So we have the inoculation campaign going, we have the fear mongering going, we have the reprobate mind increasing, the wars and rumors of war, the violence that we see in our various cities or towns, right? The rising of food prices, the rising of gas prices, right? Food shortages, supply chain disruptions. And once again, it's the system crumbling, right? All the stuff that we see in the skies and climate change, the illness, right? And once again, the breakdown of systems, individuals, communities, and it's going to get to a point whether you side with good or you side with evil. And so, for those of us who choose to side with good, never compromise, because there's going to be things that come our way that's going to be intimidating, right? But we have power through the Messiah, right? So never forget that. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, after party is at days. Yeah, after party is at days. And I think, while I'm talking, I think what I'm going to do is, since I kind of like poured my heart out to you guys since I've created the channel, I want to start doing interviews with other believers, right? And I think that that will be important, right? Because we all have our various gifts. And, when it comes down to, just explaining the topics of spiritual warfare, I do believe that it is important to have other takes on it, right? So I do want to bring some people onto the channel and you know um, kind of discuss their findings, because I think that it's going to help those of you who are curious, right? So once again, the church doesn't talk about spiritual warfare as much as they need to. The church doesn't also talk about the influence of these various you know uh, demons when it comes to the rise, the power of these various nations, right? We find a lot of this stuff on these fringe channels, and I guess this is why a lot of people in the faith do decide to go down these various rabbit holes for knowledge, right? But once again, do not stay there and then realize that it could be a seducing spirit that is teaching this stuff. So I do see a lot of people within the faith, and what they don't realize is they're being seduced by these familiar spirits, and they think that they're sharing the truth, but it's a manipulation of the truth. And so what happens is they get stuck there, right? And it stunts their growth, it stunts their development, right? Their spiritual development, right? So when it comes to being a Bible believer, there's levels to it, right? So some people start off in the church, and then some people will look into, the realm of spiritual warfare or understanding how darkness operates. And then, as you continue to grow, your spiritual discernment will increase, right? So I always pray for just the spiritual discernment. And what's very interesting now, what I used to see in still photos as far as the narc eyes, I see in person now. And because I know what these entities are, I don't engage with them, right? And it's just very, very, very interesting. And I feel like they get worse day by day, right? So I remember in 2020, people's eyes started to change, and now it just seems like once again they're getting darker and darker. Does the inoculation have something to do with it? I don't know, right? Does these various frequencies that's being blasted on us have anything to do with it? I don't know, but I know demonic activity has definitely increased globally, right? And once again, this is just only going to show you that prophecy is occurring. So I'm just going ahead and looking at some of these comments, and I'm looking at my notes to see what else we have here. Let me flip the page. Let's see. Just checking out some of the stuff, you all. And once again, the Bible says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." So just because something makes you uncomfortable, excuse me, it doesn't mean that you should steer away from it, right? Sometimes when something makes you uncomfortable, you should be going into that direction, right? Because this could be a good learning opportunity for you, right? And once again, when we avoid the spiritual side when it comes to dealing with this type of warfare, then there's so much that we're unaware of. And this is when the enemy could use that against us, right? You can just jump from false prophet to false prophet. And I'm not saying I'm a prophet, right? What I'm saying is we have to do the work ourselves, right? It's so So much easier just to listen to somebody else's thought on something and say, oh, check out this video, check out this one, check out this one. But we really have to start doing it ourselves. And as you start reading the word of God, you'll start to see how so many quote unquote prophets have it wrong, right? There's a lot of replacement theology, there's a lot of doctrines that aren't biblical. And you won't know that unless you read both the Old Testament and the New Testament, right? Let's see here. Just looking, just looking. But yeah, so this is why we see all these various rituals in society, because we have these different rulers of these various empires paying homage to these different lowercase gods, right? So going back to this whole space phenomenon and of the Apollo mission, right? We have the word Apollyon in the book of Revelation, right, which is going to be symbolic of the devil. And then Apollo is a what is it, a Greek or Roman god, right? And then we had a fertility ritual using space, right? So we had a rocket, and then we had something, called the Virgin, right? And so once again, we see all this stuff and we kind of dismiss it, but what's really happening is these people are paying homage to their deities, which is why they're blessed with things such as wealth and influence, right? But it does come at a price, right? So these demons don't play fair, right? So when people choose to make a contract with them, a demonic contract with them, there is a price to pay, and the individual definitely has to pay up. And what's interesting is when you look at this matrix system, you'll have a lot of people in positions of power. And for so many years, there was an illusion of them knowing what they were doing. But a lot of us who worked in these narcissistic safe havens or corporations, we realize that the person at the top is extremely lazy and they really don't know what they're doing, but they're really great at creating the illusion that they do know what they're doing, and they'll throw this professional jargon at you to create the illusion. And I do believe it's because of a demonic contract, but because of Bible prophecy, because judgment is occurring, these people are losing a grip on what they definitely had, I guess you can say, some sort of power over, and the illusion is dissipating. And this is why it seems like so many people in these various fields don't know what they're doing. We know that the people in the medical field, they don't really know what they're doing. When it comes to pharmakia, we see in the political system that's crumbling, right? The judiciary system crumbling, the food system, right? Isn't it funny how, and this is how you know that um these people are paying homage to these dark entities. Why is all our products bad for us? Right? When we have all these strange chemicals in our food products, these GMOs, there's heavy metals in products that we consume in our water, BPA plastics alter, the male's hormones. There's it just seems like everything that they create helps to destroy humanity, right? Where there's this heat wave across the whole globe, and it's because of the rise in technology in these cities, or I guess we can say these smart cities, right? And once again, it's like everything that they create is destructive, and it's because they're in bed with demons. And these demons hate us, you all. Like they hate humanity. And I wouldn't even be shocked if the creators of this inoculation thought that it was actually going to be a good thing, or thought that it was going to serve another agenda. But what they didn't realize was that many individuals were going to fall from it, right? And this is why you do not get in bed with demons. And when you pay close attention to people, they'll tell you that they're possessed. They may say it indirectly as a form of projection, right? But they'll tell you. And once again, we just can't brush this stuff off, right? And they create these various industries such as Hollywood, right, to this sorcery to enchant humanity. And so once again, it's very important to watch what we listen to, watch what we see, because it's all being used against us, right? When I first woke up in 2014, it was like a curse was dissipating from me. And I do believe that that can be attributed to pretty much, television. I really do believe that, it does something to your subconscious, it does something to the mind. And, as I started to wake up, I started to separate myself from these things because I knew that, they were pretty much at war against me. So let's go ahead and check out some of the comment section. I won't be on here too long because it's about 3:30 and Days hops on soon. But shout out to all of you who just got here. Peace and blessings to all of you. right? And once again, when we know this system, we know that we can never trust it. So a lot of us who rang the alarms when it came to discussing narcissistic personality disorder, when it came to the different things that was implemented with this pandemic, we could see all the red flags. And so people who chose maybe to listen to some of our channels as a form of entertainment or not take what we were saying seriously, they were deceived by these same entities, right? And they battled us. We were called conspiracy theorists. We were called crazy for setting boundaries and telling the population to just wait, right? And of course, we got labeled as crazy and stupid, and humanity got played, right? And so once again, this is why it's very important to look into this stuff, right? When it comes to talking about narcissism or the spiritual realm and whatnot. So one benefit about being raised Catholic was taking yourself out was a big sin. Let me see here. Let me did I read that wrong? The benefit about being raised Catholic was taking yourself out was a big sin. Oh yes, and what's funny? I'm still reading the Bible when it comes to that, but I really do believe that it is a control mechanism. Um, let's just say if you enslaved a group of people, you would tell them that they will be condemned to hell if they took themselves out because you'll be losing your workforce, right? So I'm still trying to find proof of that in the Bible. Even though I'm definitely against that because I'm all about empowerment. I gotta, I guess I check it out. And what's interesting, you brought up Catholicism, right? So Catholicism is going to be linked to Rome, right? And God's people are at war with Rome. But Christianity, or I guess you can say this false human-centered Christianity is a byproduct of Catholicism. What's interesting when it comes to demon possession, right? We saw a lot in these films that the Catholic Church was, the one organization that was able to cast out these demons. But really, what these demons like to do is perform, right? So you think that this priest is casting out this demon, but really these demons are playing us, right? So the person looks as if the demon is being cast out. But once again, the Bible says Satan can cast out Satan, right? And so once again, we see all this type of strange stuff. It happens in the Christian church too. I grew up in it, right? So people would say they had the Holy Spirit. You'll see them jumping around and acting. I mean, it kind of did look like an exorcism, if you ask me. And I used to always ask myself, I'm like, why am I not like these people? But it was just demons doing what they do best, putting on a show, right? This is why we see a lot of them in Hollywood. They love to entertain. They love it. And they will get up and they will lie to humanity. They'll be recorded by these various news organizations when these what how can I say this? These flags, I guess you can say, occur. And you would think to yourself, like, how could somebody just get up and lie about something like that? But once again, these people are controlled by demonic spirits and they do everything to protect their own and to keep the illusion alive. And so when we start exposing the truth, we become the problem because we're indirectly exposing them, right? But yeah, there's so much weird stuff that happens with Catholicism. There's a lot of rituals there, a lot of child abuse there, and once again, I feel like the churches in America have adopted some of these same demonic behaviors. So it's very important to be wary, right? So we have to test them by the fruits that they produce. Let's see here. It says the focus is to wear down the saints because we are the restrainer. Um, I feel like there's angels that are the restrainer, but yes, I definitely understand where you're coming from. But yes, and that's why we go through what we go through, some more than others, right? And I think this is what scares a lot of people from entering the faith because they know that it comes at a price, right? So when you become a believer, people are going to stop wanting to associate themselves with you. You're going to make them uncomfortable. They may spread lies about you, right? You're going to start seeing the world for what it actually is, and the warfare is definitely going to increase. And a lot of people, they get scared of this, right? But once again, going back to is Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, I believe. We're at war with principalities, right? And so, for those of us who know the truth, we are the light of the world. We are supposed to be that example. Our mere existence is proof that the Most High does exist. And I do believe, I have a theory that everybody believes that he exists. They just don't want to because they don't want to give up sin. They don't want to give up that narcissism, right? Even those who claim to be in the faith, they will pick and choose which scriptures they believe in. and ignore scriptures that make them feel uncomfortable. A lot of people will say, well, I'm highly blessed, so I don't have to worry about sin because the Most High will just forgive me, right? And once again, the Most High knows our heart, right? And so people who want to stay in evil, it is my personal opinion that they truly can't even understand the scriptures, right? So even if they read it over and over again. So yeah, it's crazy. It says it's not easy keeping a job. Oh my God, don't get me started on these jobs. I still haven't gone back, y'all. Like I still haven't gone back. And once again, with these demons, they like to play with you, right? So I have a recruiter who keeps he keeps communicating with me. Oh, I have a job for you, and but it's a hybrid job, and I'm like, I'm only working remote, right? And then the next day, oh, I have a job. You need to be fully inoculated, and it's on site. And I'm like, I just told you that I only want to work remotely. And then it'll be like, oh, I have a job for you. It's remote. You reply back and you won't get an answer. So this is the type of games that these spirits play with you. They like to triangulate you. I'll have some who will criticize somebody else that they shouldn't have known that I knew, just so I could doubt them. I'll have them, I don't know if I mentioned this with you all before, but what will happen is, as your eyes start to awaken and you start to notice the spiritual realm, you can sense them even if they're communicating with you digitally. So I had someone tell me to check out somebody else's video, and I'm familiar with this person's content, the person that they referred. And, I don't trust this person. And what's interesting is when I say something, my comment section is pretty quiet, especially as I continue to go down the path of truth. But somebody else can use my personal example and put it on their channel. And then they'll get a whole bunch of comments and it'll be like, oh my God, this message was so powerful and it was so great. And once again, it's just a tactic of the enemy, right? And so when it comes to dealing with narcissists, right, we have to understand that these people are under a similar spirit, so they can create the illusion of something appearing, uh, I guess you can say, being persuasive in a way, right? So I could talk about my personal experiences and the chat is quiet, or not the chat, but the comment section is quiet, but somebody else can steal my personal experiences and use them as their own, charge their clients or their customer base, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, I know what you mean." And so when you realize that they're all under the same spirit, then it's that much easier not to be deceived by them, because they call it, in the narcissistic abuse recovery community, they call it flying monkeys. And so a lot of these deceivers, a lot of these false prophets also have followings that are also huge, and they all go with the same lie. And so for those of us outside of that, and aren't aware that something like that could exist, we believe what they're saying because it appears to be true. But what we don't realize is these people are compromised and they're all under the same demonic spirit. So this is why it's important for us to get into our word, to allow the Holy Spirit to move through us so that we do have discernment when these type of tactics are being used on us. Let's see here. It says, I believe that Roman Catholicism is Satan's greatest masterpiece. And what's interesting is when you read the Old Testament, there was always some type of organization that was designed to attack God's children, right? So I think Catholicism is linked to Constantine, and we knew. And what's interesting is when you study the Israelites, they were always at war, right? God was building up a nation of people of warriors, right? And they were always at war, right? So it was like with the Egyptians empire, they were in slavery to the Egyptians, the various Babylonian empires, right? And then, of course, we have the Roman Empire, right? And a lot of people will just say all of that stuff is mythology and it was done away with. But America is a byproduct of the Roman Catholics, right? Of Rome, right? And this is why they pay homage to these different deities, right? So the Statue of Liberty being one of them. Or like when you go into, I guess I want to say it's the Capitol building, and you look up at the mural, it's these different Masonic presidents, achieving what they call, I don't know if it's called apotheosis, but achieving godhood, right? And what's interesting about the mindset of the fallen state of mankind is they really do believe that they can become gods. It's almost as if they want to find a way to hijack God's words and cheat their way into heaven and believe that they truly can become gods, right? And once again, they adhere to these various seducing spirits, which are just lying to them, right? Um, and so it's what's interesting is people will say, "Well, this is a biblical nation," and I'm like, "Are you serious? Are you serious?" You know, because when you manipulate the scriptures, it's not. But I find it crazy. And Catholicism, really, its influence has been spread all around the world. I think it is the biggest religion of the world, and they did it by force, right? Which that is also biblical as well, right? But they indoctrinate people by force. So if you don't adhere to what they have to say, then it can cost you your life. And any man, any pope or whatever that believes that they are the most high, and a lot of them always lie. Well, God told me I'm supposed to be this, right? It's a classic case of narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy, right? Their mindset, that reprobate mind, is something else. Okay, let's see what we got here. Just looking, just looking. Pure Bride, shout out to you. Hopefully all is well. For those of you new, welcome to the channel. I go by Rebound. And, we talk a lot about spiritual warfare over here. We talk about narcissism. We talk about the topics that everyone wants to stray away from, right? But yeah, let's see what we got going on. I also witnessed the eyes changing and the demonic spirit. It's very scary at first, but I've come to appreciate it now as it is saving discernment. Yes, 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 yes. And what was interesting is I was never fearful of it. I just didn't know how common it was. I remember waking up to narcissism and I didn't know it was spiritual. I just thought it was a person. And once I start to see that spirit manifest through people, and it was literally monitoring me everywhere that I went, I'm like, wow, this is spiritual, And I remember when I first created the channel, I would ask the question: is it demons or is it the person? Is it both? But it is highly spiritual, and these spirits, it's I was joking with somebody in another chat that I'm in, and I was like, it's almost as if the child of God or the children of the Most High, we're like Pokemon, and these spirits are trying to catch us all, right? So they want to enslave us, they want to control us, and we're constantly at war with them, and the goal is to get us to submit to evil, right? And to reject the Most High. And so when those of us who don't do it, it's a lifetime of warfare. And so it's going to find various ways to appear in your life, right? And this is why a lot of us, it seems like if it's not one thing, it's another, right? Which is very funny. So let me scroll down to the end of the chat. Will you be going live more often? Let's see. So I don't know. Like I want to go live more often, but with everything going on in the world, sometimes I just don't have anything to say. Like I don't know what to say. Like this world has me speechless at times, right? And it just seems like there's always something. And I'm like, hey guys, welcome to the apocalypse. How's your apocalypse going? Oh, did you catch, those people that died over there? Or what about those people who are sick over there? Or what about that building that fell over there? Or that war over there? Like, or that climate change there? Oh, how's those trails treating you? It's kind of making my lungs a little raspy. But so it's just I don't know. I just don't want to get on here all the time and be a Debbie Downer. And then plus it's been super hot, and if I turn on my AC, then it's like I can't focus on the message. But yes, I want to get on here more often. I was pretty consumed with my data analytics course. This next course that I'm taking, it should be pretty easier, but I might be on here. But yeah, I just, sometimes, and then also I'm spending like, so what will happen is I'm like giving you my whole life story. But what would happen is I'm like, oh, I could do a live. And then I'm like, wait, I could read the Bible, right? And then the thing is, my energy, I don't have it all the time because of this fifth gen technology. So when I do have it, I try to take advantage, right? So it's like, okay, well, let me read the Bible or let me hurry up and rush and do this assignment before I get fried. And then so YouTube is kind of on the back burner. But I am going to try to pop up more, at least once a week. But I just think that right now I'm going through this refining process, and I'm trying to I feel like the Lord is trying to reveal himself to me and my purpose in this world, right? And I feel like YouTube is a part of it, but I feel like there's something deeper there, right? And this is why I feel like I'm on attack, right? And even when it came to me losing my job back in, what was that, March, I felt like the Lord was trying to get me to be still because I'm someone who is always trying to find a way out of no way. And so I make all these different goals for myself. And I think I just need to be still and allow the Most High to lead in my life, especially as this awakening of His people occurs on the planet. So, and as prophecy unfolds, right? But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. Right. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, not forsaking assembly is very important. Yes, and I'm here. Oh, well, excuse me. I'm in other assemblies, and I think that's another thing too. Is I love being a student. I love learning, right? And so there's various content creators where I'm on their channels and I'm learning, and I'm in their community, so I am fellowshipping with like-minded people. And then also, even with my channel here, since I kind of steer directions, a lot of viewers fell off because I'm not talking about the gang stalking or all that other spiritual nonsense, right? When you start to shift your focus on the truth, less people are here for it, and so I'm just learning how to navigate through that, right? And then also trying to educate myself at the same time. Let's see. Let's see. Nana P's in the house. How are you, Nana P? Hopefully all is well. Gogo is in the house. How are you? Hopefully all is well. All right, you all. I'm almost done. Let's see here. Just looking through some of these comments. We've been on here for a little over an hour. Yeah, hopefully all is well. But yes, so for those of you who just joined, we talked about spiritual warfare. We talked about the influence of the demonic realm in this world system. We talked a little bit about current events and spiritual warfare and the importance of reading the word for yourself. A lot of us are listeners, but not doers, right? So, once again, spiritual discernment. So, if you're interested in any of those topics, go ahead and check out this live stream. So just checking. We got let me see, chit chat in the house. How are you? Hopefully all is well. I think I said, yeah, apotheosis, yes. And this is what these psychopaths believe. They believe that they can achieve godhood, right? And you know what's also funny now that I'm talking? Why is it everybody always blames the Most High, but no one has anything to say about the devil? No one ever says, well, if it wasn't for the devil destroying my life, it's always like, why did God allow that to happen to me? Well, God must not be real because he allowed that to happen to me. They never have anything to say about the devil. And we know that the devil is real because this world celebrates him each and every day. Oh man, I just had to get that out. I was just thinking about that the other day. Uh, I heard Islam comes out of Catholicism. No, it comes out of Judaism. So what these demons have done is they've taken the truth and they've distorted it, right? And so they took God's word and they manipulated it to create their own, right? So this is where you have the Nation of Islam, you have the false Jewish mysticism type faith, and you have Catholicism, and then Christianity is going to be a byproduct of Catholicism. And what's going to separate all these various beliefs that have somewhat of truth in them is the belief system that recognizes God's people, right? So the Israelites, and that's the only one that separates, uh, itself from the others, and it exposes the world system for what it is, and then and all the other false religions, and then it also opens up the Bible on a deeper level, right? And then you can truly understand the Bible and why the Old Testament was very important, right? So yeah, but yeah, it's crazy. We have so many counterfeits out there, right? The devil has every type of religion out there, and even within the Christian faith, there's so many different denominations. So for new believers, they will just hop from one denomination to the next, to the next, to the next, for a lifetime because there's that many, and that's why we have to read the word for ourselves. Okay, let's see here. I was replying to your message about the job situation. Let's see here. Yeah, the job. Let me see my job situation. I don't even. It's so bad, you all the spiritual warfare. I don't even want to go back, but eventually I'm going to have to go back. I'm trying to get some scholarships lined up for myself so that I don't have to go back as soon as possible. But we'll see, right? 'Cause you all know that I can't even work in the office because of 5th gen. It's like designed to kill my kind. I can't. Okay, so it says, "For real, I'm speechless." Let me see. I'm trying to see where oh, yeah, they're trying to catch us all. Yeah, yeah. Oh my god, is it, E-Baby? Yeah, they trying to catch us all. They've been trying to catch me since I was born. Like, "We gonna get you." And what's also interesting, I try to hurry up because I got a few minutes, but what was also interesting is the fact that these spirits, they want you to commit sin with them, right? And so because a lot of us grew up and we didn't know what boundaries were, and we definitely didn't know the spiritual realm, we commit sin with them. And then on judgment day, it's like we got a whole list of sin that, we were manipulated into, and now we have to stand on judgment day and, basically say, yeah, I'm guilty. I'm guilty as charged. Right. But the spiritual warfare is real. And that's why, like, even having friends, right? Like, of the world. And this is why the Bible tells us not to be unequally yoked. When we choose not to do the stuff that they want us, choose not to do the stuff that they want us to do, they don't want anything to do with us. It's like, have you noticed when you go to a bar, people will just spend money on you and it's just like, oh yeah, get this drink, get this drink, get this drink, right? But if you ask somebody for $1, they don't have it, but they can spend $50 on you at the club or the bar, right? Isn't that funny? Right? But once again, it's just I want to encourage new believers not to stray away from the faith because the world will pull itself away from you when you are a believer. And so, for those of us who have known God at an early age, or even prior to knowing the Most High, the world has already ostracized us. The world has already scapegoated us. Right? There was always limited opportunity for us. There was always a double standard for us, and these demons, like this comment says, they've been trying to catch us since we got here. Oh man. Okay, let's see here. So let me hurry up and try to scroll in this chat. And then for those of you who just got here, happy Sabbath. Hopefully all is well. Okay, so yeah, it says, I can relate. I feel like I should create more content, but I don't know. Yeah, you just get to a point, I'm in a part of a group chat. They're like, hey, Rebound, when are you going to make some more videos? And I'm like, you guys, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say. And then what's also interesting is every time I start doing videos, there's a noise campaign or there's somebody listening to me that's in the building. So, that part too. But I don't know what to say, right? It's just, that's how, and then also, if you all can hit the like button. Oh, and you know what's also interesting? My channel grows when I don't post videos. So when I post videos consistently, it doesn't grow as fast as it does without. And then also, it's I don't like looking over my back, right? So you have people who follow the channel who don't like you, who report your material. There was 3 videos that was reported for copyright strikes, and it was my own content. So somebody's going back and reporting these things. And then, yeah, then you gotta worry about YT, and then you gotta censor yourself. So it's a lot. It is a lot. Yeah, I just hopped on here really quickly. I was gonna hop on later on tonight, but then I saw some other content creators that I listened to. They're gonna hop on, so I had to, like, try to jump in between. But, once again, we're all a part of a larger body, and so I do believe we all have to give our take, right? Because some, people outside of the faith are gonna identify with certain content creators versus others, right? But because we're all a part of the same unit, we all have different gifts, right? So let's see here. Oh yes, I'm gonna leave it up, and that's if YT doesn't come for me. So it'll be here, right? Let me scroll down to the bottom really quick because I got a little less than 10 minutes. Okay, what does it say? I think eventually it comes. So a part of your reality is odd to talk about it in a sense. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the world would think that I'm crazy, but the spiritual warfare, it's so common in my life now, especially since I created the channel where I just expect it. Earlier I was talking about my teacher pretty much glitching out on me and throwing this assignment at us. Like, in this assignment, it takes so long to do, and I can't even get through the first part. She basically waited the last week to throw this assignment on us, and now I'm asking her like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And she's purposely not answering my question. She's acting as if she doesn't understand. So the narcissist, I don't know if she's one, right? But they will purposely misunderstand you because everything that they do towards you is done by design because they are at war with you. And so once again, this is why no matter where you go, there's always an issue there, right? And then they will try to gaslight you as a community and say, well, something must be wrong with you because how does this stuff keep happening to you? And it's like, well, if you consider, my faith as an issue, then that's the issue, right? So, but yeah, it is crazy, 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 crazy. It says, um, let me see, who's talking about nicotine, but I'm pretty sure that's going up too, right? But everything is going up. Like I went to the gas station. I'm in LA, and I got gas and I got what was it? A drink, and I spent $70. And I didn't even fill up my tank. And I have a car. It's not even a truck. So it took me halfway, right? And I'm like, dang, I got to drop $70, But yeah, and it's a sign that the system is collapsing, and they don't know what they're doing. It's these spirits at work, these demonic spirits at work, trying to give rise to this new system. Study to show thyself approved. Yes, yes, and once again, you all, those of you who haven't read the Bible, those of you who are kind of like uh, apprehensive when it comes to reading the Bible, it's a beautiful book, and it's actually pretty interesting. It's like one big movie, and actually, we're a part of that book. The book is living, but it is, for you men out there who are into war and all that stuff, like Game of Thrones type of stuff, read the book of Joshua and Judges. I believe Samuel also talks about it, right? Numbers also has war in it, right? So it's the Bible has a little bit of everything in it, and it really does expose everything that we see here. And for the longest, I used to believe that we were disconnected from the Bible, right? And a lot of this stuff was, it wasn't as relevant or was more symbolic. But once I figured out who Israel was, I'm like, oh wait, we're connected to the Bible. So, but yeah, it's a beautiful book, and take your time with it. But with everything that's going on in the world and the rise of all these false prophets, we have to read the Bible ourselves because I'm telling you guys, we got it wrong. Like a lot of things that we think we know, it's a lie, right? And it's because we've been listening to somebody else's interpretation of it and not reading the Word of God ourselves. So, with that, we'll go ahead and close it on that note. I'll stay in contact with you all to see when I'm going to hop on here next. My next course isn't going to be that bad. Hopefully, if the teacher doesn't glitch out on me. But yeah, and so peace and blessings to all of you. We have off the grid. Let me see what he says. What's up? I didn't know you were live. Yeah, I just magically popped on. I'll leave my live up for you. Um, but yes, so hopefully you all have a blessed Saturday. For those of you who are going to hop on Days of Noah's live, I'll be there moderating the chat. But God bless you all. And once again, just take everything that I'm sharing with you all as words of encouragement. And for those of you who are going through this cycle of abuse, right, that feeds this demonic system, just know that you can get through it. Do not allow these demons to break you down because you have the power. We have authority over them. They tremble under the name of the Most High, right? And with that, you all, let me go ahead and close the show out with some music, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care and have a great day.